You know, when you think about the huge, endless universe out there, there's really only one place we know for sure is just teeming with life, and that's our home. So, what makes planet Earth so darn special? Let's dive in and find out.
Wow, take a look at this. Now, this isn't just some cool artsy picture of Earth. It's actually a super powerful tool. This is a false color image from an ISRO satellite, and it's made up of almost 3,000 different pictures all stitched together. By using these, well, false colors, scientists can see things that are normally invisible to us. Things like the health of a giant forest, or even tiny microscopic life blooming in the oceans.
And a view like that, it really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, we know there are billions, maybe trillions of other planets out there. So what's the deal with this one? What makes our home, planet Earth, the one place, the only place we know for sure that's just full of life? That's the huge question we're going to tackle.
Okay, so to even begin to answer that, we've got to look at the recipe, right? What's the recipe for a perfect planet? Well, it turns out Earth has this special thing going for it. Scientists call it the Goldilocks principle. You know the story. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right.
I love this analogy. It's such a great way to think about our world. So picture an apple. Now, if the Earth was that apple, then everything, and I mean everything we know, every person, every mountain, every ocean, it all exists on a layer that's only as thick as the apple's skin. That incredibly thin, fragile surface, that's what we call the crust. Just think about that for a second. Everything that's ever happened in human history, all of it, is happening on this unbelievably thin, delicate layer. It really does put it all into perspective, you know? Our entire world is concentrated on this tiny little life-supporting film.
All right, so we're living on the skin of this giant cosmic apple. Got it. But where does this apple need to be for life to even have a chance? Because as we all know, location is everything.
So let's imagine for a second, what if Earth was just a little bit further from the sun? Say out where our neighbor Mars hangs out. Well, it would be a completely different world. Our planet would just be a giant ball of ice. All that amazing water we have would be lock solid in a deep freeze.
But we're not too cold. And thankfully, we're not too hot either. Because if we were any closer to the sun, all that precious water would just boil right off into space. Nope, Earth is right in that perfect sweet spot. The spot where water can actually be a liquid. And that, as far as we can tell, is the absolute key to life.
And yeah, this perfect little sweet spot actually has a name. Scientists call it the habitable zone, or, my personal favorite, the Goldilocks zone. It's that exact spot, that perfect orbit, where a planet isn't scorching hot, it isn't freezing cold, it's just right for liquid water. And, well, maybe, just maybe, it's just right for life to get started.
So it turns out there's kind of a 4-point checklist for a life-sustaining planet. First up, you've got to be in that Goldilocks zone, the right distance from your star. Second, you need to be the right size, big enough to hold on to your atmosphere with gravity, but not so massive that you crush everything. Third, you need a good protective atmosphere, something with an ozone layer to block all that nasty radiation. And fourth, you need a magnetic shield to push away harmful particles from the sun. And guess what? Earth checks all 4 boxes.
Okay, so we've got the perfect location. Check. But having all the right stuff on the outside is really only half the story. What about what's happening on the planet? Well, as you're about to see, it all comes down to teamwork. Yeah, try to think of Earth less like a rock in space and more like one giant living system. The land, the air, the water, every single living thing, they're all connected. They're all constantly interacting, affecting each other in this incredibly complex dance.
And scientists have actually broken this big team down into 4 main players. They call them spheres. So you've got the atmosphere, that's all the air. Then the hydrosphere, that's all the water. The geosphere, that's the solid stuff, land, rocks, soil. And then the star of the show, the biosphere, that's all of us, all of life.
And this right here, this is the key takeaway. It's not any one thing that makes our planet work. It's the amazing, delicate balance of all those things working together. If you make a change in one of those spheres, say you mess with the biosphere by cutting down a forest, you're going to feel the effects in the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and the geosphere. It's all connected.
All right, so we have the right conditions, we have these systems all working together in balance, but that still doesn't quite explain how life has managed to hang on for billions of years. I mean, through ice ages, asteroid impacts, how does it keep going? What's the secret to its endurance? So yeah,
With all the right ingredients in place, how does the show go on? How does life pass the torch from one generation to the next? Well, the answer is actually really simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It all comes down to reproduction.
And basically, there are two main ways life does this. First, you have asexual reproduction. That's where a single parent just makes an exact copy of itself. Simple. But then you have sexual reproduction. That's where it gets interesting. You take the instructions from two different parents, you mix them up, and you get a totally unique offspring, one that has traits from both, but is a brand new combination.
And that mixing, that's the secret sauce. It's what allows for new features, new combinations to pop up over time. You could say sexual reproduction is basically the engine of evolution. It's what allows life to adapt, to get more diverse, and to keep up with a planet that's always changing.
So, we've talked about the perfect conditions, this delicate balance, how life keeps going, but here's where the story takes a turn. Because today, right now, that very balance is facing a challenge like never before. Our home, our planet, is truly at a crossroads. And experts have a name for this massive challenge. They call it the triple planetary crisis. And it's exactly what it sounds like. 3 huge interconnected problems that are threatening the very systems we've just been learning about.
So what are these 3 crises? Number 1, climate change. Number 2, biodiversity loss. That's the loss of different kinds of plants and animals. And number 3, pollution. Now, any one of these would be a massive problem by itself, but the fact that they're all happening at once and they all feed into each other, that's what makes this such a huge threat to our planet's stability.
Remember that incredible teamwork we talked about between the atmosphere, the water, the land, and life? Well, these 3 crises, they're like throwing a giant wrench into the middle of all that. They're knocking that delicate balance completely out of whack, and they're threatening the very system that allowed all of us to be here in the first place.
And so, that leaves us with one last really important question. We now know we live on this one-of-a-kind, incredibly precious world, and it's held together by a balance that is way more fragile than we usually think. So knowing all that, how are we going to protect our only home for the future?